Okay,
Yeah.
smile.
Smile. Okay.
I could tell you're nervous right now. Just conversation with us.
Yes, that's true.
We're good to go? All right. Welcome, everybody, to Season 2, Episode 33 of Motivate Me 313's podcast. On today's show, we are having a seat at the table. We had to get the couches out of here. We had to get the tables in here because you can't have a seat at a table unless you actually have a table in the building, right? So we're going to have a great show, inshallah, today. I'm looking forward to today's show. First of all, let's introduce the people that are here. Of course, you got to the right of me, little sis Sadat Abbott. And then I got my other sister.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doesn't like me calling her big sister.
No, we were talking about I'm like, let the people decide if I'm older or younger.
Yeah, she yelled at me. I see what you're saying, Abid. I guess I wasn't in the middle, right? I had to shift over a little bit. And then Abid Tab is in the building. And then we got our guest today, Yusuf. You want to give her a round of applause. Shareefa is in the building. Shareefa is in the building. Listen, we were in contract negotiations for like over 2 years, and we finally were able to book a deal. Now, alhamdulillah, in all seriousness, we're glad and excited to have Shareefa on the show today, man. She's an awesome lady. You guys are going to learn a lot about her. Some of y'all probably already know her that are going to be tuning in. MashaAllah, she does a lot for the community, a lot for the cities that wherever she resides in. So we're going to dive into all that. And again, today's topic is about having a seat at the table. What does that mean? You know, we're going to dive into that. You know, woman empowerment, women in leadership positions, all that above. So looking forward to that. But before we get into any of that, we got to give a shout out. First of all, be sure to subscribe to all of our pages. You got YouTube, Oz Media. You got Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Oz Media. You can watch or listen to the show later on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. If you want to call in, I got the phone right here next to me. The number is 313-306-1750. Again, 313-306-1750. Be sure to call in. And got to give a shout out to the sponsors. You got the Balkan House Restaurant, Hanley International Academy, BC Adhesives, Juice Box and hamtramck. And of course, you got the Qahwa House. We're sitting here. We're drinking Qahwa House tea. Adani Shahi. So we got to give a shout out to Qahwa House, Yusuf. So go ahead and run that Qahwa House ad. And then we're going to get this wonderful show, anticipated show, on the road, Yusuf. So go ahead and give a shout out to Qahwa House. The Qahwa House. The Qahwa House is the first coffee shop of its kind. The Qahwa House is a family business established in 2017 for the sole purpose of providing the best quality Yemeni coffee with no added preservatives, artificial additives, or flavors. You can stop by Qahwa House to try their famous Yemeni latte, Adani Shahi, Mafawad, and Jubani coffees. You can also stop by to try their delicious pastries, such as the Yemeni favorite Sabaya, their sembusas, and their new menu item, Everything Mini Bites. There are currently 4 Qahwa House locations, with 2 of them coming soon as well, to make it a total of 6. Their 4 locations is West Dearborn, East Dearborn, Williamsburg, New York, Lombard, Illinois, with 2 new locations coming in Canton, Michigan, and Petersburg, New Jersey. So no matter where you're at in the country, be sure to stop by a Qahwa House and get a glimpse of what the Yemeni culture is all about. All right, so we are officially back, tuned in live. If you are watching at home or wherever you're at, feel free to shoot away any questions that you may have. I got it right here in front of me. We'll be sure to ask those questions. So first of all, you know, I know we're all excited, right, to have Shareefa here today.
100%.
So Shareefa, can you start us off with a little bit about yourself? What is it that you do? You know, and where you're at right now currently in life, because mashallah, you know, a lot of moving parts, you know, happening throughout your whole life, mashallah.
Yeah, so I'll start with my current role right now. I'm an E-led, which is an entrepreneurship-led economic development specialist. Essentially, what I do is work with underrepresented and underpopulated areas around the states, and then I obviously work overseas back home in areas like Nigeria, Africa, and Yemen, which is obviously home to the worst humanitarian crisis in modern history. So essentially, I work in those communities, empowering women and children, and if I empower men in the meantime, and that's great. So
you definitely do.
Yeah,
You definitely do.
So I'll unpack that throughout today, if that makes sense.
For sure. And maybe can you? I guess this is part of the unpacking. You can talk about right now. So, grew up in Buffalo. I believe you moved in Michigan, Dearborn, about 2003, 2004. You were saying, then now you've just been back and forth the last few years. You know, so can you give us the Buffalo experience, the Dearborn experience, and then now, you know, going back and forth, you know, maybe comparing the two and stuff like that. So how was it like growing up in Buffalo, you know, as a Yemenia, and then shifting over to Dearborn, and then now where you're at, you know?
Yeah, so I was born in Buffalo, New York, 17 years ago, and I was raised in Lackawanna, so it's a city outside of Buffalo, and then moved to Dearborn in 2005.
Oh, fine.
And for the past 4 years, I've been going back and forth. I've had dual residency. So Dearborn was still home. Buffalo was still home. It was kind of a balancing act going between cities with my work that was here for so long and then work that I was trying to do there, the ambitions that I had there. So it was like a really ambitious move. It took its toll on me, obviously, going back and forth. But alhamdulillah, I got some good work done there, great work done there. Alhamdulillah, I had a great, fruitful experience there, career there, and then alhamdulillah bringing that back here to the Southeast Michigan.
For sure, for sure. And so I know, you know, so we had a show about a good 2 weeks ago with a couple of guys from Buffalo, Edmir, Wahib, and Tango. Tango, I later find out that this is, you know, you guys are brothers and sisters. That's hilarious. But great guy, all of them great guys, man. Mashallah, it was a great show. It was fun, down to earth. We, you know, we laughed a lot. And so, you know, we learned a little bit about lackawanna, and, you know, they kind of compared it more towards hamtramck than, you know, Dearborn. Because I was saying, like, I get the hamtramck Dearborn vibes. I said South End Dearborn, you know, and lackawanna. But, you know, from you, a person that's been there and been here for, you know, a lot of years, actually, you know, you put in the time for both cities. You know, is there comparisons? Do you see comparisons between both cities, or maybe not? Or what do you see?
For sure. Hamtramck is near and dear to me. It has a special place in my heart, alhamdulillah. And I would say the comparison is actually a little closer to Hamtramck, given the population, given the radius of the city, given the movement that they have in Hamtramck in the past few years, and the movement that's been happening in Buffalo, where Yemenin are really, really mobilizing, right? So in Hamtramck, we had, which I was fortunate enough to be there, shout out to Mayor Amr Ghalib. He made sure that I sat front row in his inauguration. Like, he made sure I was one of 3 people. He had 3 seats, and he made sure I was one of those 3 people to be there.
Shareefa.
So that was very special. I made sure that I drove out with family, made sure that I was there for him and for the first what was it, majority Muslim, or was it all Muslim?
Yeah.
All Muslim city council. And the same time, meantime, in Lackawanna, New York, where we're from, it was really siloed there. It was really siloed. There's 4 wards, and it was always basically kind of like lower income. Traditionally, in the traditional sense, lower income was like the first ward, median income was like the second ward, third ward was for the third and fourth ward were actually for people that had, you know, obviously more medium to high income in those areas. And the Yemenin were pretty much siloed. Like the BIPOC, which is the, you know, Black, Indigenous people of color, Arab Americans, we were all kind of just like siloed there, where, oh, I wonder what it's like over that bridge. You guys are familiar with that bridge in the first ward. And that was traditionally over decades and decades and decades. We were definitely underrepresented in the city council. We were definitely represented in the municipalities. We were represented in the school board. We were definitely historically underrepresented. So now, you know, fast forward, I want to say from when my dad started mobilizing in the 70s, you know, in the 2020s, in this new modern era, the first ward councilwoman is a Yemenia.
Oh, wow.
Our superintendent is soon to be, inshallah, a Yemenia. Our school board is predominantly Yemeni, right? So if I can compare it, I would compare it to Hamtramck with just the mobilization and where we are as a Yemeni ummah, where we are as a Yemeni people.
Is Lackawanna, is Buffalo like surrounded all over Lackawanna as well, like how Detroit is surrounded Hamtramck?
Yeah, so it would be familiar, right? So Buffalo is the major city. It's considered, you know, our major city there. And then Lackawanna would be one of the smaller cities outside of it, like Detroit. And then there's Hamtramck. And then Dearborn, even though Dearborn's a larger city than both Hamtramck and Lackawanna.
I mean, you know, you've met Shareefa. You know, you've seen Shareefa at different events. What are your overall thoughts on Shareefa? You know, want to give the crowd something about her, you know, how you met her and what you've heard and stuff like that?
No, Allahumma barak. I've been to a lot of women events, and I love going to the community events, and she's always the speaker, and she's not from here.
Yes.
And hearing her story, mashallah, is inspiring. And she always makes me feel like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Like, literally.
Mashallah.
But, people tend to kind of not want to get involved when it comes to like in the business world, you know what I'm saying? But to see you kind of take that by storm in a way and kind of, help people reach their goals and their kind of entrepreneurship dreams is very inspiring.
She's a powerhouse for sure.
Allahumma barak.
Allah barak for sure. I agree with all that stuff. And, I mentioned earlier, she's usually everywhere, mashallah. And this is, our next question is recently, about a good week or two ago, you were in Washington, D.C., in the Capitol building, in the White House, putting in work. Can you tell us a little bit about what was that all about? What were you doing there?
Yeah, so for anybody that's familiar, April was proclaimed for the first time in United States history as Arab American Heritage Month.
I'm going to give that a round of applause, by the way. That definitely deserves it. The crowd was a little bit behind, but they're on top of it.
Definitely overdue.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, long overdue. And I'm fortunate to be one of two Yemeni that sit on the board and represent Yemeni Americans on a board of really, really influential, inspiring Arab Americans from across the U.S., Muslim and non-Muslim alike. I'd like to add that. So Muslim and non-Muslim alike, our board is Arab American powerhouses from across the U.S. There's two of us Yemeni, and both happen to be from New York State. Yusuf Mubarez, if anybody's familiar with him, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with him, he serves on the board with me as well. He's from the city, New York City, and I was from upstate. And so we were invited to several events to celebrate, because that's a celebration. We're not 100% sure if any administration is going to continue to do that in the future, right? So we wanted to really, really enjoy that moment, embrace that moment, and live in that moment. And so we were invited to, Rashida Tlaib invited us to the Library of Congress, where she had a luncheon for us. And there were several members of Congress from across the U.S. who came in and spoke so highly of their Yemeni American populations across the states. And to hear that, I was emotional. Like, I found myself emotional. I'm not sure if Yusuf and my colleagues were looking at me. I was super emotional in that moment, because I could only sit back and say, I'm a girl from Lackawanna, New York, sitting in the Library of Congress, invited to the White House to speak on Arab American, policy briefings for Arab American leaders across the U.S. Like, how fortunate am I? What did I do right in life?
Round of applause.
Yeah.
I gave him the eye. You saw the eye. You saw the eye, Yusuf? Yeah.
So essentially we were invited to the Capitol building for a lunch to celebrate. We were invited to Amazon headquarters, the second in Crystal City. And then that was where we had our huge celebration there. We had Qamariya come out, the guys from Qamariya, Sanad Murad, shout out to Sanad Murad, came out and really, really left a great impression for us there. And Yemenin had a presence for the first time in my 35 years. I lied about being 17 earlier. I'm 35. So in my...
I'll let that slide. I was like, do your thing, Shareefa, do your thing.
Yeah. I left it alone.
Yeah, in my nearly 4 decades as a second generation born and bred American, Yemeni American, alhamdulillah, that was something where I just told myself, if everything crumbled tomorrow, I lived, right? I lived and I represented, and I wish and I hope that my Yemeni brothers and sisters, Muslim brothers and sisters, and Arab American brothers and sisters can sit back and say, wow, there's Arab that are really doing really major things in a major way. And the experience in the White House was really out of body. I remember having to go to the bathroom, dry my eyes, and come back, because we had a lot of trauma in the city of Lackawanna. Our little community, they are the most benevolent, giving community, and we had a lot of, there was a lot of negativity aired in growing up, to the point where there was times where we thought raids, people, getting the houses raided was a norm. Like, we'd be out waiting for the school bus, and then we see a house getting raided. It's like, okay, the house was raided. Like, it was a norm for Yemeni American people to be targeted like that.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the house getting raided for?
So, yeah, I can, different things. There was times where it was about, drug charges, or there was times where it was about, the history with the Patriot Act and things that were happening at that time. And there was just different things. It was throughout my growing up, through my adolescence.
Yeah.
There'd just be different reasons for things. And what I do in my life and everything that I do, it does trail back to that. Like, if you went in retrospect and wondered why I became the way that I am, or why I do what I do, it's because of those things that happen. And it's not by accident. a lot of people don't know this, but if you're familiar with Dr. Debbie Al-Mutasir,
Yeah.
if you're familiar with Jalila Ahmed,
Yeah.
you're familiar with Majid Anagi,
Yeah.
all of these women, a lot of people don't know, all of these women are from Lackawanna. By far, some of the most influential Yemeni women of our time were from Lackawanna. And that tells you something. That speaks volumes to what we went through and the thick skin that we developed coming from that city and wanting to see change, not just in Lackawanna, not just in Michigan, not just in New York City, respectively and collectively across the United States. And even, in Yemen, inshallah, we'd hope to see some change there too.
No, I love that. And honestly, it makes me proud to hear this. And I know that a lot of people, one of the things that I'm excited about, obviously we talked about this a couple times already about having this show, is that we're able to shed light on amazing people that are doing great things. And with this show specifically, we're able to have, women come on the show and show all the great work that they've been doing. And it's just been awesome to hear these stories and learn these stories. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I was one of the few people that be like, man, like Yemeni women are always behind the scenes or like, at home or but you learn more, you realize like, yo, this happened because there was a Yemeni woman behind it, or this happened. It doesn't even have to be Yemeni, it can be Muslim woman behind it, and so great things. And, this topic's about having a seat at the table. Those ladies that you named definitely have a seat at the table. But for those that are at home right now that are wondering, like, what does it mean when we say having a seat at the table? I know we've been kind of pressuring Shareefa with all the questions right now, or asking her all the questions. Do you want to give your example of it? I mean, maybe share with your thoughts what it means to you of having a seat at the table.
Being heard, having everyone know that you have ideas, you have thoughts, you have a mind of your own. You can bring, something positive. You can bring something that's actually that's gonna make the community better or make the world better. You're not just another person in this world that doesn't, have purpose. So it's basically you saying, "Hey, I want to say in this. This is my future too. This is for my, legacy, for my kids to come and my family to come, and we deserve whatever you deserve."
I like that. How about you, Sada? You want to add on to that, or?
Yeah, it's to be concluded, to be heard, like as you said, to be able to know that it doesn't matter what background you're from or how you grew up or where you were from, that, like I said, you still have you have a voice, and you want it to be heard, and you want it to feel like it's important, because we're all different, and we all could bring something to the table that could contribute to the community in a positive way.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add on to it, I also think like proper representation, whatever that may be, it comes down to maybe your background or, man, woman, your gender and anything like that. So it's like, to me, it's all the stuff that you guys mentioned, but also like, to me, it's like representation at the table, making sure that you have the proper representation,
Everyone has a story.
Yeah, for sure. Shareefa, go ahead.
Especially as a woman, like, I don't know, growing up as well. And it's not just in our Yemeni culture. It's in a lot of...
even in American culture.
It's like just, know your place. And it's like, this is my place. Having a seat at the table, this is my place.
Shareefa, what are your thoughts on? Because, Shareefa had the idea of, having a seat at the table. That's what the main topic, the theme should be about, which is why, we had to pull out the table and everything like that. So, why is this important to you to have this kind of conversation?
Yeah, 100%. So I'll start by saying that I follow the mantra, if you're not offered a seat at the table, build your own table, right? So if they're not going to give you a seat at that table, you build your own. At the same time and in the same token, I'm privileged. I'm privileged to have played a supporting role for so long in what I do. I am an industry disruptor. I do have a non-traditional position. My role is non-traditional, right? I grew up in a place where you are either an educator or you're going to be a nurse. You can go to college, but you're going to be an educator or you're going to be a nurse. And when I say that, my father wasn't like that. My mother wasn't like that. My mother and father, if I told them I wanted to, be an astronaut, join Jeff Bezos and go to Blue Origin, they would say, whatever, we know you carry your pride for us at all times. So Alhamdulillah, I didn't really have to deal with that, but I do know other women did. And for me, I'm privileged to have had a father and a mother and a grandfather and brothers and business associates, colleagues, clients, male Yemeni, male Arab, Muslim and non-Muslim alike, Caucasian male superiors at work who all supported me, uplifted me. And not only did they give me a seat at the table, they got up from their seat and they gave me their seat, right? So I'm privileged to where I didn't have to tackle. I know that a lot of women have to demand and command a place at the table, and my heart hurts for them. And I love to serve as their voice, but I can't because I was privileged and honored, and alhamdulillah, I was uplifted by the males in my life. So the reason why having this table is so important to me was to actually pay homage to you and what you're doing for your sisters as you're giving them that seat at that table. You are saying, hey, Sarah and Abir, what's on your mind? What are your thoughts? Because you know you have intelligent, beautiful, strong Yemeni Muslim sisters. So that was the point in wanting to do this today, was not to say we need more men doing X, Y, Z. There's plenty out there. And it's tough, right? It's really tough because not everybody is like that. We have a whole lot of work to do within our communities across the U.S. But just to sit back and say, thank you to the brothers. Thank you to the fathers. Thank you to the men that say, I have sons, yes, and I have daughters, and my women are beautiful, and they're strong, and they're capable. Because we're not just, this is not new. Wanting Yemeni women in leadership roles, this is not new. We are reviving our history as Yemeni women. We come from majestic monarchies, right? We come from, Bilqis, Melikat Saba. We come from the Melika Arwa, Melika Asma, right? We come from a land where women were majestic, beautiful women that ruled, right? We come from a Muslim history of Khadija radiallahu anha and Aisha radiallahu anha, and we come from a beautiful history of empowered women. And they were empowered by their men, and they were empowered by their husbands, and they were respected, and they had dominance and power, mashallah. We're just reviving that now. So we're just, if anything, we're taking the masculine toxicity out of things, right? And we're saying, hey, listen, we want our voices back. And that's essentially what having a seat at the table is. It's not just having that seat at the table, it's reprising our roles in society.
Wow. Yeah.
Listen, I don't know what was more impressive. I think he double clapped that one. I like that one. You said that was a double. The crowd was really loved that. I don't know what was more impressive, what she just said or her saying all that and then squeezing in masculine toxicity without messing up.
That's our. I think that's our clip.
That's her. Oh, right there.
I like
really?
that. I mean, well, she might spit out some more gems. But
Yeah.
that was well said.
No, that was great. That was great,
And
man.
it's 100% true.
Yeah.
It really is.
For sure. And I just looked at the time, so I know when to pull that clip out, just in case that is the clip that we want to. But we still got a couple other things going on. What are your thoughts, by the way? What do you want to say about that? Because we're reaching the halfway point of the questions. I'm about to run an ad. Any comments on what was just said, Sada?
First off, thank you for all the kind things you said about us.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
We are very, very, very lucky and fortunate to do this, and fortunate to meet all these amazing, amazing, amazing women, including you, to be on the show and to just make us want to do more,
100%.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot.
When I was listening to you, I was like, she's right. Like, we don't always have to constantly, downplay the men. You know what I'm saying? There is some men out there, but I like that because sometimes, like, I know I'm gonna push this to like the teacher kind of thing. When you want good behavior, you praise the behavior that you want, and hopefully people that are watching that don't have that behavior kind of pick up on it.
Yeah.
So I hope that's the case in this situation.
The positive reinforcement, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love the way, really, what you said about reviving it. Like, this is not new. I think that's the problem, is that a lot of us don't know the history. And I'm one of those people, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know the Yemeni history as much as I probably should know it. But, hearing stories from other women that's been coming in here and talking about it, it's great to see that. Yeah, it's beautiful to see, and that this is not something that's new. This has been going on. It's just somewhere along the lines we decided to just put it away, and now you learn, because a lot of times, like, we're still mastering the difference between religion and culture. Yeah. Because obviously in the religion, this is not the case, right? You just gotta, everybody's equal, everybody's in the same view in Allah's eyes at the end of the day. And then there's the culture part. But even in our culture, as you can hear, that women were in leadership positions. Women were leaders, and they ran things, and men supported it. So it's nothing new, like you said, for sure. And that does lead to our woman in leadership question. But I want to run our second ad of today. Yusuf Daban is going to give a shout out to the Balkan House restaurant, halal food joint in Hamtramck and Ferndale. They serve delicious foods. So shout out to the Balkan House restaurant, and we'll dive into women empowerment and women in leadership positions. So make sure y'all stay tuned in. Go ahead, Yusuf. The Balkan House restaurant. The Balkan House restaurant is famous for their doner kebab sandwich. But did you know that the Balkan House now serves breakfast? Did you also know that all their food is 100% halal? The Balkan House now also have 2 food trucks, so you can book your next party or event with the Balkan House on wheels. Their Hamtramck location is 3028 Kniff Street, Hamtramck, Michigan. Their Ferndale location is 314 West 9 Mile Road, Ferndale, Michigan. Again, you can book their food trucks for your next party or event. So if you're looking for a nice place to eat with friendly service and great prices, look no further than the Balkan House restaurants.
I love these guys.
All right, we're officially. Yusuf, am I on? Yeah, we're officially back. We're officially live. Just want to make sure that I was good to go. All right, so awesome things so far, and I'm a sidetrack on on a quick question, right quick, Shareefa. I know I said we're going to dive into women empowerment. Just give me 1 second, everybody. You mentioned how hard it was growing up in Lackawanna. If you had to pinpoint something that was the hardest thing for you, what would it have been? And maybe for other women, maybe growing up too, maybe similar situations.
I would definitely pin inequity, whether it was racial inequity, being Yemeni by color and by origin, but we're checking that Caucasian box at the end of the day, right? So we don't get the privilege that comes with checking that Caucasian box. So we had this inequity of, these people are going to stay silent and they're not going to mind the silo that we put up because some of them don't speak English. Some of them probably don't know how to read. They're uneducated peoples. They are not contributing other than paying their taxpayer dollars, right? So there was a taboo that came with Yemeni American people. Like, we want to give them enough to where they're able to pay taxes and contribute back, but at the same time, we don't want them to get so powerful to where they overthrow what we got going on right now. So growing up in a place where inequity as a Yemeni woman, in a place where the nuclear home was very important, that's going back to American culture, U.S. American culture, right? The nuclear home. You got the husband, you got the wife, you got the kids. That was what was important to our culture as Americans and our identity as Americans. And then as Yemeni, it was, you're not going out without a mahram, and you're not going, God forbid you go to college unless you're going with your brother, you could take him. Things like that. And then at the same time, you're not white enough, right? So sitting there as a Yemeni American girl growing up, mind you, in my home, I was a princess. In my home, my mother and my father validated me day in and day out. You're beautiful, you're confident, you can be whatever you want to be in life, Habibti. Those words and the weight of those words offset the feeling that I had when I went to school and I was told, your people, towel heads, or whatever the words that were said. And I was just like, I don't understand, but I thought we're considered white until I learned, no, you're a person of color and you're powerful and you're inspiring and you are intelligent. When I grew up hearing that time and time and time again, I said, okay, wow, I really do have something. I really do have enough to where I can fight this and offset it. And I wasn't alone. There are some amazing, amazing powerhouses, male and female. Some of my favorite people, some of the most genuine people that I've ever met in my life are in the city of Lackawanna.
Oh, subhanAllah.
Gems.
And when you mention, like, it's crazy, guys, for years, like, we've been checking this white box, but not getting, the white treatment in a way. And it's like, basically we're hidden. We're like, we're in a category that's going to help them become a bigger category, right? But we're not being heard. We're literally just hidden inside the system. Like, just sprinkled in without nobody knowing.
And there's an argument that is done on purpose, or done, basically strategically done, for other reasons. So I just wanted to ask that question. I mean, I was just wondering, because you mentioned how it was a little tough growing up in Lackawanna. Thank you for sharing that. So one of the things that we've been discussing with a lot of women that have come on the show is, women in leadership positions. Why do you feel that's an important thing to have, especially in the communities that you work with, women in leadership positions?
Yeah, so a little bit of my background is I studied business leadership, industrial and organizational psychology, and amongst other things, general business economics. Speaking in terms of the economy alone, and I'll just speak on the economy, right? So as an economist, which this week is the IEDC's, they declared this week Economic Development Week, which is why this week was important for me to be on the show as well. Economically speaking, say we have a table of brainstorming, and there's great leaders, is what we call them. The traditional, white males that sat at the head of these tables, and they came up with bylaws and rules and regulations and everything that kind of declared how we work as people. When there's no women at that table, and I'm talking about any women, Yemeni, Muslim, Arabi, Caucasian, Hispanic, whatever type of woman, when there's no women at that table, there's a lack of emotional intelligence, a lack of emotional intelligence and a lack of empathy. We are the nurturers by nature as women. So what makes us suitable to lead is we can play that supporting role when we know, oh, this person just needs a little bit of boost. This person needs a little bit of encouragement. We can play the leadership role. We say, I'm qualified. I'm possibly even overqualified to lead this institution or this organization or this municipality or whatever the case is, right? I'm overqualified to lead. And on top of that, I can support you. I can help you grow. I can cultivate growth for you. Men tend to, by humankind, by nature, they tend to lack a little bit of empathy at times. They tend to lack a little bit of emotional intelligence. They have to work on it. Just as women have to work on dominance and trying to break through. We're a little bit more timid, but we have to be a little bit more stronger with our voice, and we can't quiver and we can't fear. We have to suck it all up when we're in leadership roles. Men have to secondarily learn how to be empathetic and to learn and acquire emotional intelligence over time. Whereas we were born with it. As women, as mothers, we were born with that empathy that you need to lead. And a long time ago, they didn't understand that you needed to be an emotional, intelligent leader to lead. And we now know that in these, alhamdulillah, in these modern generations.
That's deep. I appreciate that answer. And before we go on, we got Ziad who's been on the show, and also want to give him a shout out. But he said love to see an industrial organizational psychologist preaching. All right, and then Ziad Mafrahi just said Harvard Business Review published a piece analyzing data. They found that women leaders bring more job engagement and performance. The reason why I wanted to go ahead and look up something right quick is because Ziad just recently, I believe this was 2 weeks ago, just got basically honored by NASA fellowship, which will allow him to help teams prepare for long-term missions. All right, so go ahead and give my man Ziad. I know you remember him, Yusuf. He was on our show. A round of applause.
The space?
Yeah, I mean, we could read it into it, but basically, he's gonna be, assisting with that stuff. Like, it's a big deal.
Like, how long?
Big deal. I mean, he could probably answer it, or get him on a show. I could read it off to right here. But a shout out to Ziad. Seriously, great guy, and awesome people doing awesome things in the community. Honestly. So do you know Ziad, by the way, or?
Yeah, so if anybody knows, there's several United Yemeni groups. There's hundreds of Yemeni across the states that were in WhatsApp groups with them. Yeah. And I believe I'm in like 5 different groups. He is in one of them, and shout out to Ziad. He's amazing. He makes us all proud. I'm proud.
MashaAllah, and he's young.
Yeah.
He's young. He put back to the content, though. I got you, Ziad. All right, but he's young too, mashallah. So that's why he's one of those people that, inshallah, you'll see him keep going and keep doing great things. Any comments on the woman in leadership position? What Shareefa was just saying about that topic?
No, she makes a lot of great points, especially when it comes to, we just went, I know this is probably just random, but we just went through a pandemic. And we're mental health and all that, just came in and like hit us in the face. And to be a leader, you have to have empathy and you have to have that understanding, mentality in your brain. And like you said, for us, it's just a natural, trait that we actually are born with. And for me, honestly, I wouldn't work with anyone. I honestly would rather work with a woman leader than a male leader because they just would understand where I'm coming from. So I'm just blessed to be in this situation where there's so much women that I can actually look up to.
For sure. For sure. Did you want to add on anything to that? Or?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy my job so much is because there's, my supervisor is obviously a girl, and our job itself, being a caseworker or therapist or whatever, empathy and sympathy is the number one thing we have to have. And as an emotional person myself, like, I love being around people that could understand and be able to be myself or have bad days and be understood.
Yeah. What, you're emotional, Asana?
I am.
I'm joking. No, I'm messing around. No, but so we mentioned all this about the women in leadership roles, women having seats at the tables. What role do men play, if any? Because I know there's people out there that'll say men have no whatever regards or no hold onto whatever it is that I'm doing. So what role do men play when it comes to supporting women in leadership position, helping women have a seat at the table, whatever it is? I guess what role do men play, or what role maybe you want to see men play in this situation, Shareefa?
Yeah, and that's a two-part question. I'll start with the first part. Do men play a role? 150%. 100%. Fathers play a role. When I was a kid, I remember running around my grandparents' house and my grandfather saying, "Ta'ali, ta'ali, come." And then he used to sit me on his lap and he used to tell me, Allah yarhamah, my grandfather Ali. He used to tell me, "Inti princess. You number one from Bani Albanna. You beautiful. You smart." Okay, he just used to, it was confidence and character building, but at the time I didn't understand. And I was like, thanks, Gado, okay. And just, I just wanted to continue playing. Fast forward growing up, my grandfather ended up having Alzheimer's, Allah yarhamah. And then, I was at an age where, Allahumma barak, my father was very, very in tune. He had 5 daughters. So there's 9 of us. I'm one of 9 children. My parents, Allahumma barak, had 9 kids. And my father would tell me, Mama, you're intelligent. You can be whatever you want to be, on earth, anything that you want. You have the opportunities. I sacrificed my sacrifice. Your mother's sacrifices are so you can have a better life. And then you pay it forward for your children. So I grew up in constant character building. But at the time, I didn't understand that that's what was happening. Mm-hmm. I had a mother who, when I woke up in the morning, she would say, "Have a good day, honey, at school." And then when I came home, she would say, "How was school today? Anything new? Anything interesting? Did everybody treat you nice?" And she genuinely cared about how my day was. She was always there for me. Like, she was 100% supportive. So I'd like to, I want to be a parent like that. And I really, really try to make sure that I can be the kind of mother and the kind of father that my parents were. And they still are, even though I'm a young 35, they're still very, very prominent in my life. But yeah, and it doesn't end there, right? You have to we raise our kids and then they're sustaining them as adults, especially in this modern world where it's a little crazy to raise people. It's really hard. You're still a parent. You're always going to be a parent. And it starts there. It starts in the home. The power of words, right? The power of words. That's all they really did. I don't want to say that's all they really did. I mean, that's all they really had to do. But there was, on top of that, my father was a successful businessman. He owned a warehouse in Buffalo. And my mother, she held my father down. Like, she would work. She would walk to work. She worked 40 hours a week. 9 kids, and they were a dual income household. And my dad used to still come. I'll never forget. My father used to come to every honor roll breakfast. He didn't want me to feel the burden of having 2 parents that had to work all the time to support 9 kids at home and to support family members back home, because my father was one of 22 siblings. So, yeah, he was one of 22 siblings, and he had, people back home to take care of. So I just remember seeing that, where my dad would still, on my birthday, back when we still celebrated birthdays, my dad used to come with Pizza Hut and cupcakes for my whole classroom. And he would, every year, I'm not even just talking about one time, consistently.
Pizza Hut's pretty expensive too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Back in the day.
Ain't Little Caesars or anything like that.
Yeah. Oh, my dad is he's a class act, I'm telling you. And he used to make sure he came to the honors breakfast. He came to every event, my international night. So I was vice president of the International Club. I was vice president of the Future Business Leaders of America. I was in the Mind Benders Club at 3 years old. I mean, in third grade. And my dad used to, and my parents both, they both empowered me at such a young age. They constantly kept me busy. They constantly, had me wanting to outdo my own self. I was my own competition. They say I'm self-driven, not self-made.
Yeah.
Right? So I had a supporter.
Intrinsic, whatever that's called.
Intrinsic, yeah,
Intrinsic,
for
yeah.
100%. It was 100% intrinsic. And I had that because I was blessed to have the males in my life tell me from a young age, you're going to be something, you're special, you're intelligent. If we had more males that did that instead of sitting back saying, if you want to work to make some money, you can work to make some money, but not really listen to their kids. Sometimes we tend to be active talkers, but we're not active listeners. So if I would just say, be an active listener for your kids. Tell your kids, especially your girls, especially coming from a dad, it hits a little different when it comes from a father. Tell your daughters, you're beautiful, you're intelligent. How can I support you? Because you are going to be the generation that's better than me. Right? So that's do the men play in the part one of that question? Do the men play a role? They absolutely play a role, and it's crucial that it's done at a very young age to where the young girls can really, really grow up and say, my dad was the man. Like I'm so fortunate. I remember that. I remember from when I was a kid at the age that I'm at, and I just say, Allahumma barak. I wonder if there's other people that had males in their life like that. And then the second part of it is, I believe you said, how can going forward men continue to support, right? So at a young age, alhamdulillah, I had a great influence. And going forward, there's a great power in playing the supportive role. So typically in modern history, men don't like to play a supporting role. But I gotta shout out the men out there that are so okay with taking one step to the side, not one step back. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, hey, men, step back and let the women lead. I'm saying, take a step to the side and say, hey, let me applaud this woman, this young Yemeni woman who's out here and inspiring this next generation of Yemeni women, because that's all we can do. All we can really do is try to inspire and cultivate continued growth for our ummah.
So Yusuf, that definitely deserves a round of applause right there. I wish we had, the Sonic, whenever Sonic gets those like coins, it makes like every time she hits a gem, we just press the button. One of those buttons, because there's a lot of deep answers right now. Thoughts on the whole answer and just how men could be supportive.
First off, for your parents to be that supportive while having 9 kids is pretty cool, because the 5th of 8, you kind of get lost in the sauce and, you get a little forgetting. But no, mashallah, I'm really happy that you got to grow like that, and I'm really happy that they're still like that towards you, because it makes you who you are today. Why am I losing my train of thought today? But it's no matter what anyone says, validation, whether it's from a guy or a girl, for someone that's important to you in your life, especially if they like someone you look up to, it's so important. Like we were just playing a little test, like the love language test, stuff like that. Like for me, it was what was it?
Words of affirmation.
And validation was like, I think, the second for me. And I'm like, yeah, I love when my siblings or or my close friends or anyone just like hyping me up or telling me I'm doing a great job. Like for me, that's literally like my fuel, so it's so important. It's so important for us, like going back to, having a seat on the table, being able to say like, hey, my son and my daughter could do the same thing, it doesn't matter what gender you're in. And hearing it from the guys and hearing how much, especially like for our family, us growing and, and being able, them opening doors. Because a lot of the time, it's the guys that are opening doors for us. If they're allowing it, you don't know what other family you're motivating. So it's very, very important.
Abby, you want to share your thoughts on that too as well?
Definitely. I want to piggyback on what you were saying about your parents talking to you and feeding you those positive words in a young age. Parents, you guys just don't realize how much that affects the child. Being a teacher and being I was once a kid as well. What you tell your children become their inner voice when they're older. You know, if you're telling your kid, oh, you're bad, or you're not good enough, or you're stupid, or whatever, you know, when they get older, they're going to be hearing that in their head. It's they're going to be their inner voice. So why not, you know, hype them up and build up enough confidence where they'll feel like they can accomplish anything. Because, you know, doubt kills, you know, more dreams than failure ever will. If they already have that mentality in their brain where they can't make it, or they're not good enough, or they're not smart enough, or no one's going to listen to you, or, you know, you need to just get married and have let your husband do whatever, they're going to have that mentality, and it's not going to help them, you know, fulfill their dreams. And then also just men playing a role. Honestly, like Sada said, we would have never had this opportunity if it wasn't for my brother. Like, he had to bother me through COVID, telling me, you're going to do this. You're going to, like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not doing it. But knowing that I had his back was the only reason why. And, like, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, mashallah, like, we were able to highlight so much people and, you know, building connections. And honestly, it's who you know now. I mean, obviously it's what you know as well, but it's who you know plays a huge part, you know, so.
I just want to read off a few comments right now that's been happening since, you know, Shareefa was talking and everyone throughout. So Ziad then said, and tell other people's daughters too. Because I think it was at that part where you're mentioning that, you know, tell your daughters. So he's saying, like, mention it to the other daughters as well. Round of applause. Shout out to Adam and MoivateMe313. He gave a round of applause, said, proud of you. As Ziad said, we need to champion our women leadership, give our people some role models. It's good for business and good for the community. And then Anonymous said, tell Ibet I said hi. So we're going to talk about that later, Ibet. Not here. All right, somebody Anonymous just said, tell Ibet I said hi. So I'm going to throw that out there, all right? But with that said, you know, as I was listening to your story, Shareefa, I was still caught up on the Pizza Hut thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying here, I'll be this.
I wish I was in your class.
I'll be the classmate. Like, Shareefa, when is your birthday, Shareefa?
Write it down on the calendar.
Just be ready for it. Get some cake and some Pizza Hut.
I'm over here making this like we didn't feed you when you were a kid.
I was messing around, man. I was messing around, man.
No, my birthday's in August, so I never get to have, like, you know, a birthday party at school. So
No, I'm gonna be
Kinda
real.
envious
I'm gonna
right
be
now.
real. You know, growing up, at least when we were growing up, when we were kids, it was Little Caesars. You know, but Pizza Hut was like that special occasion. But I don't know if you guys had Little Caesars in Lackawanna or something like that.
We did, but my dad liked Pizza Hut.
Okay.
So he you know, wanted to give people he likes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure,
He
for
was
sure.
class
No,
act.
and shout out to the parents that actually show up for their kids. I know you mentioned they come to every event. Like, you know, my mom, she came to all of our events. My dad, Allah yarhamah, he was our, you know, powerhouse moneymaker, overtime, provided everything for us. And also shout out to my dad. He was that one person, like, you know, I got divorced or whatever, but he never ever made me feel like you need a demand. You know what I'm saying? Like, towards the end of his life, he was like, don't even get married. He's like, you got this. He's like, you don't need that stress. You don't need that. Because he realized, like, you know, mashallah, alhamdulillah, like, he built strong women, you know? So he knew that we can take care of ourselves and we would be able to sustain it.
I don't want to mess up the name of this person, but they put Barakallah Fikum, and then my wife put LOL. And then the same person was like, I would not have made it anywhere if it was not for my dad and grandpa. May Allah have mercy on his soul. I mean, so going back to the topics, and we're here. Feel free to shoot away any questions. We got Shareefa in the building today. For those that don't know, y'all need to find out. For those that do know, you know, this is the opportunity to ask questions away. She is here, and this is the time, maybe if you're a business owner, a great time to shoot away the question, because it's leading to my next question. MashaAllah, Allahumma barak, you know, you've helped a lot of businesses get started and get going. You know, first, like, I really wonder, like, how did you find yourself in that position? Like, how did Shareefa, you know, like I said, with the Yemeni women, you know, being kind of behind the scenes and stuff like that, you know, people knew you, this is what you did, and now you're that person. Like, you know, people trying to start a business or start a franchise, let's call up Shareefa. How did you get that role?
No, and I want to add on as well, as a woman,
Yeah.
you know? Because, like, we don't usually, like you said, teacher, nurse, you know, we don't usually go towards the business, especially as, you know, and what did you call? You said
Economic development.
Yes, but no, you called yourself economist or
Economist.
economist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I teach first grade, okay?
Listen, I just want to say this at home. Ask someone that has a franchise, more than likely, especially for like Yemeni business, Yemeni owned people, they'll tell you Shareefa somehow, mashallah, you know, probably has something to do with it. But go ahead, Shareefa. Can you tell us how that role happened and how did you get that role?
Yeah, so even here in Dearborn, my father and my mother both had a prevalence right? So I definitely am a hybrid of their work ethic, everything that they had cultivated throughout time. So my father, mashallah alayhi, was that guy in the city of Lackawanna, but he had a very strong prominence across the states. So he was that person that if somebody didn't speak English and they needed a bill translated, or they needed to, get their EIN or get their certificate of authority, he was that guy that first started to do that for people. He understood, which in all reality, I like to say that my dad is a proud feminist and a proud economist. My father was that guy to where he believed in people enough to, hey, okay, you have $1 and a dream, I got you. So he would help them do those things. And then my mother was at the same time simultaneously empowering women, right? So she was one of the original founders of the IWO, the Islamic Women's Organization in Lackawanna, New York, which I'd like to say that a lot of these powerhouse women were a part of that organization. If you guys are familiar with Golden Sabaya, shout out to the ladies of Golden Sabaya, the sisters there. They were a part of our organization at that time. And my mom would take women to translate. She would teach them English. She would teach them how to drive. She empowered them. So growing up, I seen a father who was helping people establish businesses, right? And then I seen a mother who was helping women, empower themselves and uplift themselves, because we grow up in a place where there's a sense of identity crisis, right? There's that nuclear home that we need here, where it's husband, mom, kids. And then back home, there's that sense of the male are the providers, but Yemen is a foreign country, dependent. It's dependent on foreign. The economy of Yemen is heavily dependent on foreign countries, right? So they're dependent on the Yemeni in America and the Yemeni in Britain to send them back money, and that's how the economy kind of works out there, right? And with the humanitarian crisis, I shift gears from helping Niger, Africa, to helping Yemen, because so many men didn't want their women to work. They don't want their women leaving the houses. And then they get sick. Then they go to the hospitals, and there's one nurse serving, 300 people that are dying. And then there's no other nurses there. And there's no nurses because men didn't allow their women to educate themselves. And then with the masculinity, obviously, they're too proud to become nurses themselves. So now there's a shortage and men are dying. Then what happens when men die? Who's to take care of them? Who's to take care of that nuclear home that's no more? Who's to take care of those yatam, right? So now there's that double dependence on our families and our fathers and us now at this point to sustain them and to stabilize their economy back home. And that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. That's a lot of pressure to put on one type of people. And a lot of people don't understand that there was people here living off of welfare because they gave their last dimes to Yemen to help their family live and survive. That's why I do what I do. It's not just for that representation of trying to get that seat at the table. I do what I do because at the end of the day, there needs to be change in Yemen. They need to establish their own economy. And it might not happen today. It might not happen tomorrow, but hopefully with people like yourselves, hopefully with the Yemeni leaders, amazing, amazing male and female Yemeni leaders across the states, hopefully coming together and joining forces, they'll come together to realize, hey, listen, what are initiatives that we could take? How can we help them sustain themselves? Instead of constantly just giving them something to where they don't know the value of having to make that dollar, instead of just constantly giving them, and that's for the people that are capable. Then you have the yatam and you have the people that are not capable at all, subhanAllah. Those people we would support blindly if we have to. But for the men that are capable and for the people that are capable, how about we just teach you trade skills? How about we invest in farms? How about we invest in things to help you? How about we send you guys some seeds and grow fruits and vegetables and herbs and sell them, or grow henna farms or something of the sort? Have a trade, have a skill, have some type of ownership in something other than just, I need money from my family.
Yep. Teach them how to fish instead of giving them one.
100%.
Yusuf, that's a round of applause.
Yeah, for sure. For sure it is.
By
the way, we're only calling Yusuf's name to call Yusuf's name. We actually have a live crowd audience that gives us a round of applause whenever there is something here, whenever there's facts being spoken. Great points. Go ahead, Sabir.
You know how, like, for years, I mean, this has been the case for all the families. If you're in America, you're giving back money to your family back home. And I feel like in some way it's enabling, and it's that history of, a lot of times I think you're in America, you're making money and it's easy and, you're privileged in a way, and they don't realize that we work for every, dollar that we make. And it's time for change, and it's time for Yemen to become, its own sustainable country. And inshallah, like you said, because united we're stronger.
100%.
And inshallah, mashallah, the work that you're doing and that you are that you can continue to do, it's slowly making a difference, but it is making a difference. Because I see a difference.
Yeah, for sure. Nesma Nu'man said, mashallah. And then Tula Polite, which is the name that has been commented, said, as a woman, we need a simple plan as to how to start a small business. Yemeni women are so rich with great ideas. It always has been in us since Queen Sheba, but we lost the road in the blur of history. And then Ziad then threw out there, teach a person to fish, which is a lot more important than to give them, the fish itself. You know what I'm saying? So with that said, we kind of talk about what's been going on. Let's talk about the future for a little bit. From now till 5 years from now, what would you want to see in terms of growth? It could be specifically for the Yemeni community, for the Muslim community, just any communities that you work with in general. Like, what kind of growth would you want to see from now till the next 5 years? Like, what would you want to see in the communities that you work in?
For sure, like, I believe right now the emphasis needs to be on the Yemeni community, just given what we're going through as a people, both here and back home in Yemen. There's something, I have a vision board, which I don't really share with people, but I'll share here. So I have a vision board of these groups of Yemeni leaders across the United States that we're with. And essentially what I would like to see in my line of work is I would love to see male and female Yemeni leaders from across the states, whether they're nominated or whether they're self-nominated, whatever the case is. I'd like for them to reach out to me separately so that we can facilitate in maybe different cities across this, across the country. Like right now, I would like to see it in Dearborn. Then from there, maybe we could take ourselves to the Bay or Anaheim or whatever the case is. But I would like to facilitate a, kind of I would say power storming. I don't want to even say brainstorming, right? Power storming at a table like this. Obviously, it's going to be a lot larger because there's a lot more people. But I want to facilitate the ability for everybody to come together and dwell in the problem space. If anybody knows me, they know I always talk about problem space versus solution space. In my whole life, I've heard all these different solutions that the Yemeni American people, mashallah alayhum, everybody has, and they have great solutions. But I feel like if we take a little bit of time to focus on our Yemeni American ummah and bettering our Yemeni American ummah, from there we can then better help negate the issues and the pains in Yemen. But right now we have a lot of work to do as a Yemeni ummah here, right? Sit down and say, what are our problems here? What are the pains of the people in Oakland? What are the pains of the Yemenin in Anaheim? What are the pains of the Yemenin in Orlando? The pains of the Yemenin in New York City and Dearborn and Illinois and across the United States of America? What are their pains? What are their challenges? If we sit down and literally only speak about what the problems are, not soliciting any type of solution at that time, because we really, really need to sit down and really, really pay attention to that problem space. What are our problems? What are our problems now? Mm-hmm. And how can we further mitigate those problems? And then from there, strategically come up with solutions. So it's not going to take one day and it's not going to take 1 year. And it might take this next 5 years, but ideally that's what I'd like to see is after 5 years, we have that final forum. So we start with the problem space forum and end with the solution space forum and the strategic planning forum, right? Then from there, we can hopefully make change in Yemen. But until we come together as a community, as a united community here in the States, united Yemeni community here in the States, all we're really going to have is ideas, thoughts, concepts, theories of what can work. There's no implementation because not two people, not that, there's two people that might not agree or three people that might not agree, and then it just ends up fizzling off. And that's been the history of our people here. Yeah.
I'm ready to punch through a wall right now, Shareefa. I'm run through a wall right now, man. She's over here is giving us speeches out, stuff that needs to be said to a lot of people, or in a lot of rooms where people are getting together and they're afraid to say this. They're afraid to say this, so they kind of just focus on themselves or focus on their own problems. But go ahead.
You could just tell how dedicated she is.
Yeah.
You could just tell how dedicated she is in her voice. She's like, bang, 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 bang.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. And we won't be able to get anywhere unless we're together. Because like you said, a couple people would, as soon as there's one disagreement, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to do it their way, or I don't want to do it like this. And then, But no, I'm in one of those. I'm in the United Yemeni
You are.
Americans group. So, mashallah, like
You
there's
are.
some strong-willed. I have to work on definitely being able to let my voice be heard and like actually like defend myself. I feel like sometimes just like I'll let stuff go, but mashallah, Allahumma barak, there's women out there that are strong, and hopefully we can all get together and make a change. At least even for the future, we want the younger. We want the younger generation to feel more empowered because obviously, we're not going to be here forever, but we want, like you said, sustain it.
100%. And sustainability is only one bucket of it, right? So, when I do strategic planning for organizations or institutions, I tell them what are your problems? Tell me what your problems are. I sleep on their problems for a very long time. When I say sleep, I don't mean I ignore it. I mean I actually lose sleep trying to figure out how I can help them better sustain their organizations. And I start with buckets, right? So there's the political bucket, which I tend to stay away from politics. Then there's the economic and socio buckets, right? So there's a social bucket, there's an economic bucket. Then there's that civic bucket where we are global citizens, whether we like it or not. As human beings, we are global citizens. We have a duty and a responsibility as Bani Adam to give back to those. We're taught and it's embedded in us that when you get a little bit back, you're supposed to give that back, right? You're supposed to pay it forward. So civic engagement is sometimes lost or looked at as politics, when in all reality, they're not the same things. They're not interchangeable. Being a citizen and having that, upholding that duty to give back to your society or to give back to your region or your area or your city or whatever the case is as a global citizen is different than working with politics. So until we sit back and understand what are the political problems, what are the social problems, what are the economic problems, what are the civic problems, are Yemenin going out to vote? Are Yemenin contributing properly to the economic development or creating economic impact? Do they have a socio norm? There's realistically a socio-normative. We're sitting back and we're wondering, how can we help the mental health crisis among the Yemeni people, among the Muslim people, among the Arab people? And up until recently, it's been stigma and taboo. People don't want to talk about it. We need people to talk about it, right? And then there's obviously the politics of it, which even though I stay away from it, I love to hear people's thoughts on it. And if we can sit down and congregate as a ummah and say, hey, listen, what are the pains, problems, the issues that are going on in our communities? Once we can sit down and have a huge vision board and, just have a huge vision board of this is what's going on in California, this is what's going on in Dearborn, this is what's going on in hamtramck, Buffalo, New York, whatever the case is, when we sit back, we can then collectively work together on solutions. And if this city doesn't have it as bad as this city, how can I help you, brother? How can I help you, sister? Mm-hmm. And it has to be diverse perspectives. It has to be brothers and sisters. Because like I said, that empathy and that understanding, we have so many more single mothers in Yemen right now that have 7 to 10 kids that didn't know how to house their kids. Shout out to the United Humanitarian Foundation.
Yes, definitely.
For the housing project. For housing, 300 people are already housed. By the end of the project, close to 1,000 people will be housed because of the UHF project. And a lot of them are single women raising their kids alone. And a lot of them are illiterate. And a lot of them can't read. And a lot of them don't know, they don't have the skills or they don't have the tools to take care of their families. And realistically speaking, if they were to have those opportunities, if they were able to support their families from the beginning of time, from, obviously at the time where they started having children, I don't think any mother would have said, oh no, I don't want to get up and work and help my husband and support my kids, right?
Nope.
And that's the importance of not just giving them or offering them the opportunity. And I think that alludes to what you were saying earlier about some women believe that men shouldn't have anything to do with giving us our power back. But there's a power in men saying, do what you have to do. I trust you. Mm-hmm. Do what you have to do. I trust that you're going to make me proud. And I trust that you're going to hold us down. And I trust that you're going to help take care of these kids. And I trust that in my absence, you're going to make men out of my sons.
Mm. Adam and Ben McKee gave a round of applause. Moti, great show. Thanks for shedding light on this topic. I just applied for my dual citizenship for the city of Buffalo. Shout out to Moti. Let's see if it gets accepted. By the way, Shareefa is the final one, the final step. So get on her good side. Ziad then said thank you for saying that Shareefa can't just be the sisters, has to be the whole community lift. It has to be a whole community lift. I'm sorry.
I'm loving the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is, alhamdulillah, like I wanted.
It's about time.
Yes.
It's like,
and this is just the beginning. We're just talking right now. We got to action. We got to take action. And whenever you have certain people on the show, you want to be able to have certain things taken out of it, right? Like you hope to get the best out of the conversation, and this is what I wanted, because Shareefa, mashallah, she does a lot. And then anonymous just said Moti is not accepted. So I just want to throw this out there. This anonymous person gave I bit a shout out and said Moti is not accepted. So whoever it may
He's
be.
from Buffalo.
They want drama.
Yeah. Yeah. So shout out to anonymous. Okay. There you go. With that said, we're gonna give a last shout out to our sponsor, and then we're gonna get to the Motivate Me 313 minute, which this part IB records, and we're gonna ask for advice from you. For the question. So, Yusuf, go ahead and give a shout out to our last sponsor of today. Let's give a shout out to BC Adhesives. I don't remember the last time we did that on this show specifically. Shout out to BC Adhesives, great people. This guy's calling me. He's got always act like he don't know that we're live, but he calls me right when we're live. And so give a shout out to BC Adhesives, and then we'll go from there. All right, Yusuf?
BC Adhesives. You can go to BC Adhesives for all your industrial adhesives needs. They do food packaging, bookbinding, product assembly, and many other industrial services. So if you are in need of adhesives for your business or having trouble with your current adhesives applications, you can contact them by phone 1-888-679-9825 or go on their website www.bcadhesives.com.
All right, anonymous. We need you to identify yourself because we just placed a
Listen, you're not supposed to ever give them attention. If they're not gonna use their name, don't give them any attention.
boy, anonymous boy or girl. Keep commenting. What are you talking about? It's all about.
We don't
Making
want
me
that.
laugh.
It's all about. What's the
Attack
word?
Sada now.
All right. They ain't attacking nobody realistically.
listen.
All right.
I don't think
Shout out to Anonymous and everybody else that's commenting. Feel free to comment. We're about to close out the show soon. We're moving on to our final couple questions or just general topics. Motivate Me 313 minutes. So basically, like I said, it's the part where Abid will record you. And my question to you is, what advice do you have for women out there who want to have a seat at the table but are afraid to take the next step forward? And I'm not gonna just say women. We're here to have you here, Shareefa. I'm very happy to have you. But we are in the presence also of your daughter, and she's here listening to this whole conversation. So I guess my question to you is, what would you also say to the future generations, to like people like your daughter or anyone else that might be listening that's young? Like, what advice would you tell them about what it takes to have a seat at the table, but they're afraid to take that next step forward? Did not expect that, by the way.
I would definitely say mentorship is key, and I know that's something that Abid wanted to touch on while we were here. And I make myself available. I've sacrificed a social life for a very long time, trying to better our ummah in any way that I can. Brothers or sisters have reached out to me. I have helped uplift and empower and inspire both young males and young females. Allahumma barak. So if there's some way, and it kind of, I don't have social media other than a LinkedIn page, but if there's anybody out here that has my number or knows somebody who has my number, I work with a lot of people, reach out to me or reach out to your local Yemeni leader that you know and have them reach out to me. I'm really okay with providing mentorship, especially a couple hours a week. I'd love to do that. And then I'd love to collectively other Yemeniats and other Yemenin. I know there's the AAYSP, shout out to the AAYSP. They do what they do. And I know that there's a lot of other organizations that are supporting, but if there's anybody who needs help, we can even come up with some type of mentoring and coaching group on WhatsApp or something. Any way to give back, I'm with it.
I love it. Go ahead and give that another round of applause. Ziad said Yusuf is keeping us on our toes. He definitely did. He shocked all of us. When we heard that. But shout out to everybody. Seriously, shout out to Yusuf. Shout out to Sarah, Abir, Shareefa in the building today. We are reaching that end point. Before we give our final words, I want to say, if you're watching, if you're new, be sure to subscribe to our page, YouTube, Oz Media. We try to have these conversations once a week. We have 3 different shows. We have the Motivate Me 313 podcast, which is this one today, the movement with the younger generation. And then we have the Fantasy Guys, which is our sports show. Be sure to subscribe, YouTube, Oz Media. Follow us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Oz Media. If you want to listen to the show later, we're on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. And for future reference, if you want to call in, the number is 313-306-1750. If you can't make it to the show, but you want to share your 2 cents, feel free to call in. With that said, final words, final comments that you guys want to say. I know, Sada got that face like she was just glad to be here in this presence of, this whole conversation. Go ahead, Sada.
No, thank you so much for everything you do, and it's always a great time with you.
Yep, for sure. Abby, do you want to chime in on that as well?
You're an inspiration. You're literally my age, but I look up to you as if literally you're my older sister, mashallah. And, I can't wait to see what you have in store, and also keep in touch.
And I just want to throw that out there. You're back and forth from Lackawanna, Buffalo to here in Dearborn, and now you're probably going to be here, inshallah, a little bit more. And I'm excited because I'm just, not that I even have anything to do probably with some of the things that you're going to be doing, but we're happy to be here to help and support one another. When you have somebody like that come into the neighborhood now where you have quicker access to them. And so, for those that are around here in the area, just want to throw that out there. So Moti not ready for Big General. Okay.
We know who Anonymous
now we know who Anonymous is. Zach, go do your homework, Zach. All right, that's what we need to just throw out there. But with that said, Shareefa, final words, final comments.
I just want to again reiterate that I respect you. I appreciate you as a brother, and I thank you again. And I literally did this because of what you do. I specifically stay away from like media type stuff, but sometimes, if there's a good enough host, if there's a good enough influence there, then I'll say, hey, yeah, I'll do it. And I literally did this because I'm proud of what you're doing. So continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Shareefa. It means a lot coming from you, of course. Again, we do this, next week, Monday, we'll be back again. Part 2 with Arif Nagy and Andre Lundy. It's going to be a great show. Yeah, we're going to look forward to that one. That was probably one of our most viewed podcasts that we had this year. But this time we're going to dive into more stories about their life while they were in prison. Again, not to glorify anything. We're just going to mention their stories because people wanted to hear it. And hopefully people learn from these kind of things. And like, they say a smart person learns from their mistake. A wise person learns from the mistake of others. And they'll be here. They'll tell you straight up. Like, they're only saying this stuff just so you guys can learn from it. So it's a great, deep conversation, inshallah, that we should have next week, Monday. Looking forward to it. Someone get Shareefa more screen time. Listen, whenever Shareefa, inshallah, is around the neighborhood, she tells me, yo, I need to come on this show. She got the green light. We got chairs to pull up. We got mics to give. I'll give her my mic at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So
I can definitely see some like professional development courses coming, in the future from you.
It's part of the vision board.
Yeah.
I need to see this. Do you have a physical vision board?
I do. I do have a physical vision board of this forum that I anticipate happening that I will facilitate. Like he said, putting action behind it. I'm not just saying that, it's in the works.
Yeah. Oh no, that's right.
So alhamdulillah, we already have committed sponsors. So
nice, mashallah. And then for sure, anytime you want to come on the show, obviously Shareefa, or a topic you think someone that would want to come on a show for the topic specifically, bring them on. Shout out again to the sponsors: BC Adhesives, Balkan House, Powerhouse, Hanley, and Juice Box and Hamtramck. We appreciate everybody. We appreciate the support. We hope that you enjoy this show. Best thing you can do, share it. You think it was very beneficial? Let somebody else learn from this. I'm sure that they can definitely benefit from a show like today, no matter what it is that they're doing in life. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you all next week, Monday, 6 o'clock p.m. And we're looking forward